Alright everyone, welcome one and all to Serenade Dark Souls review of Final Fantasy X. I'm going to be honest, this was given to me by a good friend of mine as a very belated Christmas gift. Regardless, I'm not going to pass judgment. I'm just going to jump right into the review. Overall, I actually find that when I first started playing this game, it was just too average. It was average and unlikable, and yeah, I didn't really like it. Then, at the pleading of a friend of mine, not gonna say names, at the pleading of a friend of mine, I started to play it again just to see what would happen. I wanted to see what would happen if I just went that little bit farther, and this game just drew me in like flies to a pile of garbage. Damn it, I should have said moths to light. Forget I said flies to garbage. I now said moth to light. That's what you heard. Don't try anything else. One of the main things that actually pushed me away from this game at first was the main character. Now, what Square tried to do was they tried to do their own form of immersion, I suppose, where instead of starting you off with an a character that knows exactly what's going on, and therefore you're only known by the characters or other characters reminding you of things, like, oh yeah, you do know you're the leader of Shinra, right? What? Note, I don't know if that actually happens in one of the games, I'm just saying that as an example. Final Fantasy X tries a different style in which, out of nowhere, you're thrown into this story. You, the player, have no idea what's going on, and neither does the character. So it works in theory. On paper and in theory, it works that that the sense of immersion will jive well. Unfortunately, if it weren't for the main character's blissful ignorance of the world around him for the first, quarter or two of the game, it's almost unbearable. That, coupled with some atrocious voice acting in several cases, for those of you who have played the game, do I need to mention the ha 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 scene? Do I really need to mention that? I really hope I don't. Anyways, enough about that. Let's start picking apart this game bit by bit. Gameplay. Everybody loves gameplay. It's your standard run around in a wild open field until monsters appear and try and bite your giblets off. It is that general of a game. However, it backs away from old Final Fantasies, or older Final Fantasies, by, instead of having the ATB system, it uses a turn-based system. Sort of going back to basics on that, because, when was the last time that you played a Final Fantasy that was turn-based and not, hey look, okay, the bar's filling up, okay, I can act now, yay, splat. It's turn-based, and you can actually check the order of the turns, so it's very handy if you want to strategize. Of course, it's sometimes a bit disheartening when you see an opponent that's going to get 4 attacks in a row, in which case you simply mash the triangle button to have your character's guard and hope for the best. Anyways, everything plays out fairly smoothly. I wish I could say the same about Chocobo Racing. You know what I'm talking about. But other than that, it is enjoyable. You would think that something that detracts from the whole ATB system would be, well, not an ATB system. Well, of course it's not an ATB system. That doesn't mean it doesn't work. It works beautifully. Then there's the sphere grid. I found this to be interesting. It's very similar to the license grid that you see in Final Fantasy XII, but a bit more straightforward. This grid actually has sort of a linear path for your character to follow, but you can, and later on will, unlock certain spheres so that your characters can gain the abilities of, your other characters. For instance, at the moment, I haven't finished this game, but at the moment, the main character is learning some white magic that the white mage learns. it's an interesting system. It does work. I'll give it that. Anyways, enough about gameplay. On with characters. Characters. Everybody loves characters. You got your standard slew of typical RPG characters. You have your standard swordsman who's out to save the world with his love interest. You have the love interest white mage who can also summon dragons with nukes on their foreheads and giant nightmare fuel induced creatures that visit me in my dreams. Holy crap, Anima is scary. You have the heavy-headed stoic warrior who hits harder than anything and is also built like a brick shithouse. You've got the loud, audacious sportsman who defeats enemies by whacking them with his balls. Sports balls, get your mind out of the gutter. We have the typical quiet black mage who has more belts on her than strands of hair. Seriously, what is with that? You've got the quiet and soft-spoken but carries a large stick wild man who can learn the abilities of enemies. And then you have your lovable little thief who moves quicker than crap through a goose. I'm not kidding. She will attack 3 times and the enemy will be like, "Where's my wallet?" I wouldn't be surprised if she can steal time from people. That doesn't. I gotta teach my thief slow. Then I can say she's stealing time. Anyway, so characters are fairly standard. I wish the main character was a bit more, knowledgeable, but thankfully he does, learn how the world works around the 3/4 mark. Until then, you get to listen to his, "Let's defeat the Eldritch Abomination!" We don't want to. Why not? You don't want to know. Alright, so enough about characters. Let's look at music for a moment. The music is, of course, more of Nobuo Uematsu's greatest works. I'm not kidding, that man is a god in the music industry. And even some of the softer, simpler tunes are just incredible. I mean, for those of you who have played the game, I am absolutely in love with the Hymn of the Faith. I love that damn tune. So yeah, the music is catchy, it works. Sometimes it'll continuously play the same music even through the battles, but in those cases, it's a lot more environmental, and it makes you just... it's incredible. The music is truly a treat. Alright, so we've covered gameplay, characters, graphics. I'm not going to mention the plot. I'll mention that in another review once I finish this game. Let's take a look at graphics for a moment. The graphics are they're very pleasing to the eye. They are not the best that a PS2 can fart out, but they are well done. The characters work out well. They look vibrant and colorful compared to some of the even dull, soft-spoken backgrounds. All the enemies look beautiful, and though they could burst out from the screen themselves, and some things should be left to the imagination, like, I wonder why half of that summon is underneath the ground. Oh God! Some things are not meant to be seen. So yeah, there's a few things I could wonder, like why one of the characters has more belts than anything, but overall, it's a solid game that holds itself together. The only qualm I really have is that a lot of the content is locked until about 3/4 of the way through the story, but that's actually a good idea. The plot's heavily railroaded, so it moves you along. You understand the plot so that you don't break away and end up forgetting crucial details. And then finally, after the last bit, the final stand is so blatant and there in your head, you know what you have to do, but you're going to go out and do a few other things first. Like, get the Infinity +1 sword so that your enemy, or your party, can hit worth more than anything. Anyways, as a final note, I'm going to give this a solid 8 out of 10. Please don't give me flack. This was Serenade reviewing Final Fantasy X. I hope you had fun. See you in the next review.